Okay, now we're on the air.
Oh. You missed a lot of good jokes, Clark.
Yeah, basically what we were saying is that we are the Contested Long Twos podcast. Now, this is the first episode, and we used to be the Henry Sims Experience, but just like Henry Sims, this name is out of the league. So, it might come back eventually. Henry Sims might come back, but it's gone for the time being. We are the Contested Long Twos podcast. So that's all we were saying, and it really developed naturally, and it won't get the same privilege of doing so because we didn't realize we were being recorded. But we were talking about Henry Sims, about how him playing for the Sixers was the best year and a half of Ethan's life, and how it's been kind of a struggle for him to move on as a Sixers fan. So, especially this season where they just won their first game, but there's been a lot of turmoil amongst the team. Not necessarily in the loss column because that was expected, but maybe off-court issues.
Right. So, in terms of the win-loss stuff, like everyone knew that we'd have a hard time winning because we don't really have NBA players, which is a hard way to win games in the NBA. Compound that with the fact that our 2 point guards, Tony Wroten and Kendall Marshall, both were hurt, which sounds ridiculous to say, but is actually legitimate. Also, Robert Covington started the year injured, so 0-18 is not that surprising. We won a game against the Lakers, which, wasn't that impressive because it's the Lakers. But, I do genuinely think that this team will look a lot better second half of the season than we did in the first half of the season.
And because of the return of Covington and...
Everyone gelling together. Marshall, Wroten... Wroten's coming back tomorrow night.
Yep.
Marshall will be back, I think, next week. But, people are going to gel. And also, the second half of the season is a lot easier than the first half because teams don't try as hard. And so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it makes it easier for you guys. Do you think the return of Tony Wroten, helps anything?
Brett Brown said that he thinks that by him, getting into the lane, it'll force guys, our problem is that we have too many big guys. Yeah. So that seems counterintuitive to have, a point guard that only gets into the paint and can't shoot. However, if Wroten can get into the lane, maybe a defender's help assignment will move, which would free up a pass to Jaleel or something like that. It's a concern.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably going to be better than Isaiah Cannon, who can't create any separation between him and his defender, or T.J. McConnell, who shouldn't be in the NBA.
Probably not, but he tries.
He definitely...
We waived we have to waive one of them. We waived Phil Pressey instead of T.J. McConnell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So take that. Not an NBA player.
Does that say more about T.J. McConnell or Phil Pressey?
No comment.
So you will have Wroten back. You're getting Marshall back. Obviously, he'll be able to run the offense to a higher degree than we've seen so far.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in Marshall? Because
an ability to get the ball to Jaleel, in an actual position to score. Way too many of Jaleel's possessions have him start at the 3-point line, which is not where you want Jaleel Okafor to have the ball. Okafor also has to get better at passing out of double teams and not taking 20 seconds on a post up, which I hope he'll do as he develops. But the ability to enter the ball into the post and read a pick and roll. Isaiah Cannon has no idea how to read a pick and roll. And so Marshall should be better at that. And just, overall having, a basketball head.
Right. Yeah, you talked about Okafor taking a while on the post-ups, and it seems like the team is better offensively and defensively without him on the court because he seems to be just stalling out the offense every time he gets the ball. How do you think that can kind of change?
Just him... He seems immature on a number of levels right now. Off the court we'll get into, but on the court too, he very much treats it like it's still college. He's a 35-second shot clock and can just be the focal point of an offense. And while he's the focal point of our offense, he has to go quicker. At the same time, he's 19, and I'm not that worried about it. He has to stop being lazy on rebounding. Okay, you can work on that. He has to stop. He hasn't set picks very well. He has to actually finish through his picks. Again, workable. All of his flaws are stuff that I think that can develop. He won't be perfect, and I still kind of wish we had Kristaps, but he's someone that can develop.
That was my next question. On a scale from 1 to 10, How much do you regret them taking Jaleel over Kristaps?
10. I regretted it when we did it. I love Kristaps before the draft. Like,
Okay.
he's what the NBA is going to, blocking shots and shooting threes. And, like, Jaleel Okafor is a great player and, like, will be very, 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 very good. But Kristaps is kind of like the definition of the modern NBA, and just watching him do what he does in New York, albeit with Melo on the court. But if you look at like Melo's splits with Kristaps and without Kristaps, he's so much better with Kristaps. Like, Kristaps is so legit and gonna be a star.
Did you expect them to be this good already?
No,
Yeah.
no one did.
Yeah. Me neither. He's the front runner for Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah,
It's pretty
him
bonkers.
playing in New York helps that.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you think if Towns was... Do you think some of it is just the
Knick thing?
the European thing?
It's the European thing, but also the Knick thing.
Okay.
I think this may have been Jalen Rose who says this. Maybe it's not true, but like there was a thing that like people in New York and LA always get like a much bigger like scope, and people think they're better than they are. Iman Shumpert was a really good example of this.
Right.
People thought Iman Shumpert was incredible because he was a Knick. Like
Right.
when you play in a big market, you get more exposure. People think you're better than you are.
Yeah, and you'll develop your favorite players no matter who you watch, whether it's the Knicks or the Timberwolves. But no one really watches the Timberwolves,
Yeah.
so they don't. If someone makes a good play, no one's going to be like, "Hey, did you see what Shabazz Muhammad
Yeah.
or did you see what Gorgie Jang did the other day?" Gorgie Jang would be considered a bona fide starting center if he played in New York.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that going on, I think. And not that Kristaps hasn't been good. He's been fantastic. But when you play in New York, you're just going to have like such a more of a microscope on you. So when you play well, it's going to look that much better.
So, if you were going to say that that's helping his rookie campaign, what are the cases against him?
Just that he still has to get stronger.
Just in terms of a Rookie of the Year campaign,
Oh, a
not
rookie-
in terms of like a player.
Rookie of the Year. It's... That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why you'd say no? I honestly don't really have a good answer. That he's playing very much like the Rookie of the Year. I just think being in New York, like having the spotlight on you helps.
Right, yeah, because from a statistical standpoint, and you can kind of split hairs and decide whether you think Towns is better player right now than Porzingis, and that's totally understandable either way. But from just a statistical output, and maybe this is Porzingis getting more minutes, I haven't checked the minutes totals, but he's just dominating Towns in all those categories. So
Yeah, no, he's playing very, 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 very well.
And for better or worse, Rookie of the Year campaign does kind of center around statistical production.
Yeah.
Because not all rookies, most rookies just don't put up good stats, so when they do, it's really fun.
Yeah, and most people don't actually watch rookies, so they just look at the stats. As anyone who watched Michael Carter Williams could tell you.
Exactly. Michael Carter Williams is probably the best case of that being really misleading. Yeah. He's got and now he is the third string point guard for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, Tyler Ennis started over him. I haven't watched Tyler Ennis since he came to the NBA, so maybe he's something, but he's Tyler Ennis.
Yeah, you would think they would go to MCW when Grievous Vasquez got injured, but even then, it wasn't enough to get Michael Carter Williams in that starting role.
God.
And something I've been thinking about, Oladipo has also recently been benched.
Yeah, he's not been playing well either.
So, what I'm getting back to is that rookie class really was quite bad.
Yeah, I mean, Giannis is the only, and Noel, but
Yeah. Alex Len is fine.
Yeah.
Steven Adams is fine.
if you got a fine player from that draft class, you're happy.
Then if you got Steven Adams from that at the 12th pick, you are much better than most teams who had to suffer through that draft. Otto Porter's been a little better.
Yeah, he's been mediocre, I think.
But
this
the
season.
three candidates for Rookie of the Year, Oladipo, MCW, and Trey Burke, all not that good, it seems like.
No. And again, Noel he wasn't the candidate for Rookie of the Year that year because he was hurt, but he was a candidate the next year and was from
Right.
the draft class. You can kind of count him as the one guy, but
Yeah, and he was originally the unanimous number one pick, and then he fell because a lot of GMs are not very smart. I mean, you had Chris Grant passing on him, and Rob Hennigan. I can understand the Oladipo pick. They were there clearly 1 and 2 at that time.
Yeah.
And then it was just a lot of other stupidity that
Was
led
it Otto
to,
Porter?
Cody Zeller.
Oh God, Cody.
You know.
Zeller. Cody Zeller's a player.
Yeah, I guess it's Cody Zeller's not the worst fate you can suffer. At least you didn't pick Anthony Bennett if you're Charlotte. But yeah, Cody Zeller probably is not going to be as good as Nerlens Noel. How has Nerlens looked this year?
Not great. He actually him and Jaleel fit terribly. And then if you look at Nerlens' defensive numbers, he actually efficiency wise has not been great since he hurt his knee against Orlando, got tendonitis in it or something, and since then his defensive metrics have not been very good. Hopefully he kind of gets over that. I think he will. I'm not that worried about it.
Right.
He has struggled this season.
All right. Yes.
Part of that is that we're going to a very slow offense with Jaleel, and Nerlens Noel likes to run up and down the court, which
he's very good at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I'm not worried about Noel long term. I think he's still going to be very, very good.
All right. So, what will the Sixers do to teach Jaleel to stop punching people?
I'm hoping that what we've done now will work, because this is the first time in his life where he has consequences for his actions.
Mm-hmm.
So there were 3 incidents that were reported as 4 incidents. The way the reporting came out, there was him going 108 miles on the Ben Franklin Bridge. Having driven on that bridge, I can tell you it's not smart to go 108 miles an hour on that, or just in general, but especially on that bridge. He got into an altercation in October, apparently, where he tried to punch someone in a car, and he got a gun pulled on him. And then there was a night in Boston where he punched 2 different people, threw one of them into a glass door. That incident was leaked at 2 different times, so it looks like 2 different incidents, but it was only one. But yeah, he needs to stop punching people.
Yeah.
As much as I enjoy it, he probably shouldn't be doing it and needs to learn to not do it. At the same time, he's 19 years old. And as a 20-year-old, I can tell you that I don't do very many smart things. So I can imagine him not doing a lot of smart things either. When this happened in the past, nothing happened. The press never knew about it. He didn't go to jail. The team didn't do anything really that we know of. There were no real consequences. Now he's publicly embarrassed. Now he has to go. He goes home and he reads the newspaper, and his name is in it if he reads a newspaper. He goes on Twitter and people are tweeting about how he punched a dude in Boston. He's getting his name dragged through the mud now, and I'm hoping that kind of kicks him into stop doing this.
Yeah, that would probably get a lot of people to make sure that situation doesn't happen again.
He needs people around him that Chris Carter made the point during the NFL Symposium stupidly that you need a fall guy, and that's not true. But you need people that understand that you're more important than them in a weird way. If you're going to go out with a professional athlete, you have to know that he cannot get in any trouble. He cannot fight people. He cannot have his name appear anywhere. So you have to, protect him. If you see something going on, get him out of there. I know it's hard. He's big. But,
yeah.
Athletes need friends that understand that the athlete is more important than them. And it's a really poor, it sounds harsh, but it's kind of true.
Oh, it's definitely true. Nobody cares if Jahlil Okafor's friend gets in a fight in Boston.
Yeah. Or even just, not even get in a fight, but, just get him out of there. He cannot be... he can't be rolling.
Well, I'm not saying he has to, fight things for him. Just,
exactly. One... It won't be a story if blah, blah, blah gets in a skirmish. It'll be a story if Jahlil Okafor gets in a skirmish.
Yeah. But one of the bright spots on the Sixers so far has been the return of Robert Covington.
The bright spot, probably.
The bright spot. I mean, Stauskas has been fine.
He's not. He's shooting poorly, which is kind
of... Oh, okay.
I mean, he should be okay, hopefully, long term.
I would honestly chalk that up to the stagnant offense.
I'd hope.
I mean, you'd hope, yeah. I don't know. I'm biased towards him. He went to the college I root for. But Robert Covington looks good.
Yeah, he does. He can shoot really, really, really well, which we knew from last year. He can defend positions 2 through 5. Not particularly well, but he can do it. He's not a bad defender by any stretch of the imagination. And he's getting better at going to the hole, and he's a smart player. He can't create any offense for himself, but that's fine. He just he's been asked to because of this god-awful team. But he is a legitimate NBA piece. He really is.
Are you worried about his overall shooting percentages moving from the power forward, which he played a lot last season, to the small forward spot. I know he played well in his first good game against the Rockets, primarily with Trevor Ariza guarding him. But what do you see? What do you project him as? I know he's a little taller than small forwards, but do you think he can get a shot off as well? How do you see that shaping
I don't
out?
remember the metrics exactly, but he's very good at shooting with a hand in his face. Like he's not bad when people are guarding him. Yeah, like at power forward he'll get more room just because guys are slower. Like that's fair, but he can. I think he can shoot with a small forward in his face. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, a lot of the shots he made in the Rockets-Sixers game I saw a week ago did involve him. Just kind of he had a couple where he was shooting off the dribble. It kind of looked like Paul George out there at times.
Yeah, and no, we very much let him chuck it whenever he wants. It's Covington's paradise.
As long as that can kind of be somewhat sustainable, he'll definitely have another good season. Definitely one of the more efficient players, despite all the madness going on in the Sixers rotation. How about Hollis Thompson? How's he been?
Meh. He's someone who, if you look at his 3-point percentage, he's, actually pretty good, which is surprising. But then you just, if you watch the game, you're like, he missed another one. He missed another one. You never see him, make shots, which is concerning.
The 40% that he makes is always when the TV is off.
Yeah, it's very odd. But, statistically, he's not terrible, but, it's weird. I'm confused by him.
How about Jeremy Grant?
I mean, his shooting-wise has been bad. Ever since Summer League, every single time he gets the ball, he's supposed to get into the hole and dunk on someone. Which is entertaining, but also not the best for an NBA offense.
Right.
But no, I still think he's talented. And he's made a few... he's been, a little smarter this year overall, and is really defensively versatile. But, he's someone that hopefully can turn into something.
Yeah.
Still not banking on it, but he looks solid.
Any other Sixers players of note? Nope.
Joel Embiid measured in at 7'2" today.
Oh, wow. Still growing.
Yeah.
What was his weight?
I don't know. And I don't know if being 7'2" is a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a good thing.
In terms of...
Oh, his health.
Yes.
Right.
I know that if he plays basketball, that being taller is good. I understand that. But...
Okay, just making sure. Because that is a key facet of basketball.
Yes.
Although, I read an article recently by Kevin Pelton on ESPN saying that the 6'6" Draymond Green is the best center in the NBA.
It's hard for me to... yes. The reason you can make that argument is sample size, in the sense that he doesn't have to play the center that much per game. If he did, he'd tire out, and it'd be very hard for him to continue. You can't start him as your center and play him 35 minutes a night in the position.
Right.
He'd get just too tired, unless he's superhuman, which I guess is possible because it is Draymond Green. But when their center lineups are so good.
Exactly. And you're totally correct in that it's a smaller sample size, but he might be just so much better at that position in that lineup than any other center that it might not matter. They are obviously running teams off the court on offense. It's the best offense we've seen. The only thing that has ever come close to this offense was the 2014 Spurs Finals performance, and that was over the course of 5 games. This has been for the entire season so far, and the end of last season, as soon as they got their head in the games during playoffs, because there were a few
they seemed
rough
better
patches.
this season than they did the end of
Yeah,
last
there were
season.
definitely a few rough patches last season.
And the competition was you playing the Cavs in the finals is a lot harder than playing the
of
Bucks on
course.
Thursday. But it's I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, so the offense coupled with the fact that their defense is also a significant, even in that lineup, is significantly better than any other defensive lineup in the league. Draymond Green, interesting stat this year, is allowing 40.5% of shots in the restricted area. The only two above him are Rudy Gobert and maybe Ibaka. I forget the other one. Maybe I forget. But one of them was Rudy Gobert, so that's not bad company. And I think he was only 1% off. Obviously, you can chalk that up to smaller sample size. Rudy and the other guys are taking about 9 or so shots head to head. He's taking about 4 or 5.
Right.
But after having to do that, and they play that lineup every game. You wonder how he's able to do that. How is Draymond Green able to only let in 40% of shots in the restricted area when he's there? Why is this the case?
I mean, he has a long wingspan. He's smart. He's athletic. That would be why. In terms of like how it's confusing.
It just still doesn't make sense to me.
No, the Warriors defy any logic. Like there's no like, oh, this makes sense. Like this, like the reason that they're so good is this, and this. The reason that they're so good is that Draymond Green's not human. Steph Curry is the greatest player I've seen in my entire life. I'm pretty sure at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Or at least this is the greatest single season performance we've ever seen.
Yeah. He averaged, against the Charlotte 2 nights ago, I think it was, he averaged 2.2 points per shot.
And yes, I have full memory of LeBron with that 30 points a game, 60% shooting streak. I remember that. This is better.
He's so good. He can create a shot whenever he wants from three. He makes almost all the threes he takes, and he takes more than anyone else in the league.
Yes. There was 538's. What was his name?
I forget his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Morrison.
538 nerd.
Benjamin Morris.
Benjamin Morris.
That's it. 538 nerd A wrote an amazing article about Steph Curry, and there were so many metrics they use, like off the dribble shot, early in the shot clock shot, contested shot, and Steph Curry. They couldn't explain it. He was just way too good at all of them. His true shooting percentage is eclipsing 70%, which is unheard of at the volume of shots he's taken. What was your favorite statistic from that? Because there were a lot of eye-popping ones.
The one for me was the shot percentage with less time left in the shot clock.
Yeah.
And that, I think I forget the number that he's shooting, but he's shooting better with 0 to 4 seconds left in the shot clock than he's shooting with 4 to 8 or something like that.
It was kind of like an upside-down parabola in the sense that he's very good in the beginning of the shot clock, and then also good at the beginning, at the end. And the sample size wasn't that small. It was still about 10% or maybe less of his shots are at the end of the shot clock. But if you think about how many shots Steph Curry takes, that's a lot of shots.
Yeah, he's we before the season both were Anthony Davis is winning the MVP. There's no way Anthony Davis doesn't win the MVP. Just give it to him now. And Steph Curry is winning the MVP. There's no other way to say it.
Exactly. Steph Curry, it's going to take a lot of groundwork for Anthony Davis
the only
or
way
LeBron
Steph Curry
James
doesn't win the
or
MVP.
Russell Westbrook or whatever exactly. What is the only way?
Torn ACL. That's...
Knock on wood.
Yeah, no, knock on wood. Well, see, an injury is the only thing that can stop it.
Right. Right. Yeah, that would be terrible for the game of basketball.
Oh my god, I would cry.
Yeah.
But
there have been other exciting players to watch. Obviously, none to the same degree as Curry, and to a larger extent, the Warriors, just from being able to play around Curry and make a bunch of shots. Something else I found interesting from that stat. Did you notice Andre Iguodala's true shooting percentage from that
I didn't catch
scatter plot? It was obviously lower frequency, but it was close to 70 as well.
Wow.
So it's interesting seeing Iguodala, a very average shooter, and you know that firsthand watching him on Sixers. I would call his 3-point shot average at best.
Yeah.
Just seeing him be able to find his shots and play in a very efficient game in the Warriors ecosystem is a testament to not only Iguodala's basketball IQ, but also just to the Warriors' ridiculous system. It's broken.
I always wanted to see Iguodala as the third or fourth best player on a team when he was in Philly, just because that's the role that he should be filling. And now he's doing it, and he's better than I ever thought he could be.
Yeah, no,
even though he's aging, he's not as good as he was when he was in Philadelphia. But oh god, he's just so helpful for them. And he fits that role so well. This is such a well constructed team.
Yeah, and you could say that he has always been a smart basketball player. But even though his athleticism is slightly deteriorated, it's just you can tell that he's just amazing passer on this team. He guards LeBron smarter than anyone I've ever seen. He rarely made mistakes, and I guess Kawhi Leonard would be another example of that. But to compare someone to Kawhi for their defensive job on LeBron you can't get higher praise than that.
And watching Iguodala as a young player, like, he doesn't do any of the stuff that used to drive me crazy anymore.
Yeah.
Partly because he has, other people to do the crap that he used to do, but, well.
And actually do it well.
Yeah, and part of it is because he got smarter. And also part of it is he didn't have Doug Collins as a head coach.
Yeah.
So, like...
There's 3 reasons.
Is there Doug Collins or Eddie Jordan or any of the other cast of characters that, Maurice Cheeks that were coaching the Sixers.
Right.
But, he doesn't take fadeaways at the end of games from long 2 and brick them to lose the game. Like, he doesn't do that anymore because he doesn't need to.
Yeah, exactly. It's allowed him to just do what he's only good at, as opposed to being miscast into that Iverson replacement, down to the initials.
Yeah.
The AI. Nope. He is not Iverson. He is Scottie Pippen, or some weird assimilation to that. I know we compare every athletic wingman to Scottie Pippen, but he just serves for it. Speaking of guys we can compare to Scottie Pippen, I'm eager to talk about Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. We don't have to compare them. We compare them a lot because they're similar, but let's just marvel at the fact.
Well, first of all, we can marvel at
doing...
the fact that Indiana could have had them both.
That's a good point. Hey, when you can trade for George Hill, you got to do it.
And also, no one saw Kawhi Leonard being this.
Yeah, not even... Well, maybe the Spurs, because I never underestimate Popovich, but...
If they thought Kawhi Leonard would be this, I think they'd try harder to get him just giving up George Hill.
Well, I mean, if the Indiana stops at George Hill, there's no need to...
don't you think they're going for, the 5th pick in the draft, 6th pick in the draft? It's trying to get up really, really high, a collection of other people. If you knew that...
Kind of like what the Celtics are trying to do with Justice Winslow, even though he wasn't... They tried to move up to the 4th pick, even though they knew he wasn't going to get that high.
Yeah, don't you, I don't know, I would look to trade Tony Parker if I knew that, Kawhi Leonard would be this good, to get Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's only I guess if... It's a tough one, because I think how good the Spurs think Kawhi Leonard is going to be is not a factor in what assets they give up.
That's fair.
It's only a fact. The only variable is how Indiana thinks of Kawhi Leonard.
That's definitely fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they would have been fine with doing it if they knew he was this good. If it got to that point, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. That makes more sense now to me.
Yeah. No. Absolutely. But they getting Kawhi. So Kawhi and Paul George are I guess similar players in some respects, different in others, obviously. Overall, more talented, I'd give it to George right now, just because of what we've seen. We haven't seen Kawhi do the stuff that George is asked to do on a nightly basis, and that's not Kawhi's fault.
No. At the same time, it's hard to detract that from George's resume.
Yeah.
Even if the shots he's making aren't very high percentage for most players.
He was asked to create an offense that featured Roy Hibbert and David West.
Yeah.
And he was able to do it.
Exactly.
And Lance Stevenson.
And now his only other offensive plus player is Monte Ellis, who hasn't been playing well. And I guess C.J. Miles has been going well, but I'd rather be positioned around Tim Duncan, LaMarcus Aldridge, and even an aging Tony Parker than C.J. Miles and Monte Ellis.
Yeah, no. And, we haven't seen Paul George lock up LeBron like we've seen Kawhi Leonard do. Leonard's clearly a better defensive player. But, overall talent, you give it to George at this point. But Kawhi is, it's not an insult to Kawhi.
Yeah, can we just talk about Kawhi Leonard? Because we all know George has been a superstar for the last 3 years. Kawhi Leonard is a superstar now.
Yeah, no, he is.
There is no doubt about it. He is shooting almost 50% from 3. Can we just think about that? Can we just think about that? We were a couple months ago, or several months ago, we were voting Kyle Korver into the All-Star game because he was shooting 50% from 3. And Kawhi Leonard is almost at that point from 3. Not only that, he's the best wing defender in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he can get to the basket now. And he has a little bit of a pull-up jump shot off the mid-range. I think he does not define what a superstar is in the sense of being able to create their own shot, but we're kind of moving away from that as a league.
No, absolutely. The days of just, you're not a superstar unless you can be like Jordan and, get yourself a pull-up long 2 are gone.
Yeah.
It's a very much different skill set that they're looking for, and Kawhi Leonard fits that skill set very well now. I can't believe San Antonio has him.
Yeah. That's one of those Popovich did it again trades. Just like, being able to select Kyle Anderson in the 30th pick. I'm still interested in seeing what Anderson can do. I think they'll start. I think Diao is still playing just fine, but as soon as he starts, as soon as his dieting habits catch up to him, Kyle Anderson will be there to fill in.
Yeah, I feel bad for the Spurs almost because no one. They have the best defensive efficiency in the league. If you look at their, I think they're it's like a 94 defensive efficiency. It's very, very good, and their defense, they don't foul anyone. They don't let up threes. They're playing incredible defense, but no one is caring because the Warriors are 20-0.
Right. And meanwhile, I think the Spurs at this point, from what I've seen this season, and maybe you can argue the Cavaliers with a healthy supporting cast, are the only ones who I would ever think have a chance against the Warriors in the playoffs.
Yeah, you could argue OKC, but probably not.
OKC, I did forget about them.
It's hard for me to say they don't have a chance.
I just don't know where they stand right now because we haven't really seen it all coalesce ever since Durant's injuries.
Yeah.
They have a new supporting cast. They kind of did a renovation of sorts last year's trade deadline, or last season's trade deadline, since it was still 2015. And we just haven't really seen it all work.
No,
yet. I think it can. It's just
the
injuries
guys
and
are very weird,
chemistry issues, and Billy Donovan might not being a very good tactical coach.
Is he? I haven't watched enough of them. Is he not being smart?
It doesn't seem that different from what I hear.
Interesting.
He was never known for being a tactician in the SEC at Florida. It might turn out to be a very questionable hire.
That's interesting.
In hindsight, probably.
That's really, really interesting.
He'll probably be better than Scott Brooks, but
that's not
it might not work out.
Yeah, that team. That makes me wonder. Do you think that? Because if you remember the 2011, when did they make the finals? 2011.
2012.
2012. They had actual ball movement. It wasn't just sticking. You'd have Harden run through a screen and get a three. You'd have Durant doing stuff and Westbrook doing stuff. I wonder if it. If the reason they weren't doing ball movement stuff is more the personnel than the coach.
Right. It's possible.
If Westbrook doesn't want to move the ball, and I'm not saying trade Westbrook, but if he doesn't want to move the ball, he's not going to move the ball. He's going to do Westbrook things.
Exactly.
If Durant wants to run an ISO, he's going to run an ISO. You should do that because it's pretty good, and you'll get points. But if it's hard to install a ball movement offense when you have Russell Westbrook and Deion Waiters.
Yeah, go.
And looking at their moves. Getting Enes Kanter and, Deion Waiters sucks, but whatever. The idea of Deion Waiters over the actual Deion Waiters. These guys don't make sense in supporting roles.
Right.
Enes Kanter doesn't play off the ball. He gets the ball on the post and does Enes Kanter things and doesn't play defense.
Right.
It's not like he's, running around screens or, providing output for your offense that isn't him posting up.
Right. Yeah, and if you can't utilize him on offense, he's pretty useless because he doesn't really offer that much other than rebounding and, just setting big, hard screens by virtue of having a large body.
Yeah. And, you just had Kendrick Perkins for that. Not that Kendrick Perkins. He's better by being
He's Kendrick Perkins with, offensive ability.
Yeah. And worse at defense. Well, at this point, maybe not. But
yeah, Kendrick Perkins was just pretty bad altogether.
But, I just... imagine the Warriors, trying to play Enes Kanter. They could. It wouldn't work for them. So they just don't have role players that act like role players. Deion Waiters thinks he's better than Kevin Durant.
Right. And it's funny that you reference their ball movement era being the era that Harden was there. Because as we look over, go south of Oklahoma down to Texas, we'll notice that the Houston Rockets have been really struggling, and partially because of Mr. Beard himself. Hasn't been quite moving the ball that well, has been really kind of doing Jahlil Okafor things in terms of stalling out his team's offensive possessions in isolation. Do you blame this one on Harden, or is it just everyone being knuckleheads and not working around him? Or is it both? And if it is, how much of it is one way and how much of it is the other way?
I think it's a combination. I think when you're... Their team last year was pretty much hard and ISOs.
Right.
And it worked because they had guys who would play around it. Then you add Ty Lawson to the mix. And you say, okay, we want to stop doing hard and ISOs, but you don't the thing that I counted on them doing this season they haven't done is understand what to do when it's not a hard ISO. And that includes hard moving off the ball, and that includes, you can have an offense that isn't, you can have hard ISOs, but, do other things as well, and they haven't done that well. And that's a real problem.
Yeah, I always had the idea that, Harden's so talented that he'll learn how to be effective even if he doesn't have the ball in his hands. And I don't know if talent and knowing how to be versatile are necessarily correlated.
No.
And this is a lesson that we're learning now.
Yeah.
That, it's not kind of it's like people all thought, Derrick Rose is so good that he'll learn how to adjust to his injury. No, sometimes you can be really talented and also not be very versatile.
Look at Kobe.
Yeah.
If Kobe really, really tried, I don't know if he could be effective at this stage in his career, but he could do stuff like not take 30 shots a game.
I think that's more of just a stubborn aspect of him. My concern for James Harden is that when it comes to playing off the ball on that Houston offense, he just doesn't really have a good feel for it.
Yeah, and it's weird because he was the one asking Morey to get another ball handler.
Right.
So you assume that's he wants to play off the ball.
Right.
And I kind of get the idea of I want to rest and not have the entire burden of the offense on my shoulders, but you can't just stand there if you do that.
Exactly.
And just not he doesn't move on he just points on defense mostly.
Right.
There's not a lot, and on one hand I kind of get it because if you're asked to do so much offensively, then you're not going to be able to play well defensively or give your full effort defensively. Human bodies don't work that way. But on the other hand, you wanted to relax more on offense to get Ty Lawson in, but then when Ty Lawson has the ball, you're not doing anything. And, that just hurts your offense.
Also, we saw him do it last year. We say how it's hard to, give a crap on defense after playing offense a lot.
That's true.
He did it last year. He was great last year. He was the MVP runner-up last year. And there are reports that he's just not in as good a shape this year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's a motivation factor, what it is. Maybe he feels like he's just gotten to where he wanted to be and kind of got complacent.
I'm waiting for you to say the K word.
Kardashian?
Yeah.
I didn't want to attribute that to the main reason, but you know what? It's not like the Kardashians deserve for me to not do that, so...
I have a problem in general on, the how much I feel not you, but, in terms of, mainstream media, people just blaming athletes' girlfriends or being distractions and whatnot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot, and it's
No,
very uncomfortable.
I want to rephrase this. I'm not doing it just out of that principle.
No, I knew you weren't.
It's just that we have... I have hard evidence of players' skills sets depreciating when associating with Kardashians. Yeah. And the most unfortunate case, obviously, is Lamar Odom. We're really relieved to hear that he's doing better. That we haven't talked about him yet. We were, checking Twitter every day, making sure he was okay. So, outside of that, Miles Austin, Reggie Bush.
Was Miles Austin ever good?
That's a good point. Maybe I need to rethink this study.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think Chris Humphries was ever that good either.
Yeah, he might have, but he definitely improved as soon as they called off the divorce.
Yeah, that's probably, definitely. Or they did get divorced, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they called off the wedding.
He got incrementally better. Yeah,
he was pretty bad when they were engaged, and then, I don't know if that... Again, this is probably all coincidental. Lamar Odom couldn't find a good system for him in Dallas.
Yeah, I read Ramona Shelburne wrote a really interesting piece on him when that whole thing happened, and a lot of his thing was when the Lakers tried to trade him and couldn't, he felt betrayed and felt because he doesn't be a Laker for life.
He's a really nice and loyal guy.
Yeah,
and
so I think that a lot of his I'm not saying that the reason that he's the way he is today is because of that failed trade. But
obviously he had a lot of other tragedies in his life.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of his basketball career, when the team that you love and you thought loved you just stops, it really hurts.
Right.
And we get that's kind of part of the business, and it's kind of as a professional athlete, you're not. It's kind of your job to know that this could end, and it's sad, but relatively speaking, they have a job to do, and if their job makes them decide that I'm not what they want, then they can do that. But it's hard to just kind of keep that in your head at all times. You're a person.
You always feel like your work environment has an exception.
Right.
And it's different, and it's fun. Like, we all fall under that impression.
Yeah. So I can understand him being hurt by that, and then he just wasn't able to really restart it, which is, it's sad, but it happened.
Yeah. Yep, so hard to see if there's a correlation between Kardashian dating and decline in play, or divorcing of Kardashian and improvement in play, but the fact does remain that Harden is worse after starting to date Khloe Kardashian. Obviously, there are other reasons he's not in shape, etc. But do you see anything? Do you see things getting better for this Rockets team?
Yeah. I do still believe that in the end, talent is what the most important thing in the NBA is. And you need a cohesive unit, and teamwork matters. But ultimately, talent is the most important thing. They're only half a game out of a playoff spot right now.
Right.
It's not like they're 10 games out already. They're very much in playoff contention. So as long as they can kind of get their stuff together, enough, they should be. I said they were a finals contender before the season. I don't know if I believe that anymore.
Right.
But I think they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and having Beverly back and healthy is going to help them. Obviously, there's a lot of rumblings that they should have just started him right off the bat. I think it's okay to start Harden and Lawson right away just to see what you have.
Yeah.
And obviously, we expected them to kind of struggle at first because they were just trying to create this chemistry. At what point do you just try to scratch it and play Harden as a sixth man? I mean, sorry, not Harden,
They've
Lawson.
already done that, I'm pretty sure. They've started playing Lawson off the bench.
They have?
Yeah.
But at what point would you?
I don't know, when just the second that you feel that just the pair, it's too much, you're giving up too much defensively and stuff like that. I don't have an exact cutoff point, but
right.
So the thing with
because
the Rockets,
ceiling for that could be really high if they can both learn how to play effectively off the ball.
Yeah. No, it could be. Just it hasn't worked yet, and you need more time to let it gel. And they're still playing together in lineups. You can't separate them both because you want to get them both on the floor enough. So they just have to kind of it doesn't look like it's gonna work. The thing that concerns the Rockets, if they had this record and didn't fire Kevin McHale, I wouldn't be worrying that much. But the fact that they fired Kevin McHale and the fact that there's rumors that they're trying to dump Ty Lawson makes me think that they're panicking.
Right.
And if they're panicking, that says a lot to me. Because they're an organization with Daryl Morey that I think is very process based and doesn't doesn't let results get in the way of their greater goal. And it seems like they're freaking out at this point. You fire the coach, you look to trade the guy you just got. That really concerns me in terms of their outlook for the rest of the year.
Right, yeah, it definitely seemed very un-Rockets-like.
Exactly.
Definitely.
If the Lakers do it, I'd be okay, that makes sense. But
yeah, no.
This isn't the Lakers.
If anything, the Lakers should do it by now.
Oh, no, the Lakers should fight. The fact that Byron Scott does a job is amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And it concerns me as a Sixer fan because they might finish the worst record in the league and keep their pick.
Right, and so it has to be fall out of the top three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit because you guys have a lot of potential picks next season, as do the Celtics, one, and the Nets pick.
Yeah.
And one of those might become Ben Simmons.
They might be. Well, the only one the Sixers can become Ben Simmons is our own pick, or actually Sacramento's pick.
Right.
If Sacramento wins the lottery, we win the lottery via draft swap.
Oh wow, good point.
So
you're really hedging your bets there. That's great.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
So that could be helpful. Ben Simmons is the god.
He's going to be very good.
Yeah.
As is Labissiere.
Yeah.
Out of Kentucky.
Yeah, and the guy from Kentucky I like a lot as well is Jamal Murray.
Yeah. He'd be great on the Sixers.
Yeah. So if the Lakers fall to 4, maybe we can get him there.
Yeah.
But just trying to predict lottery odds is nuts at this point.
Exactly. But it's kind of what we look for. As you look for. I mean, I have something to root for as a Celtics fan. Not that much since we're not in any position to contend for a championship. But we win games. We might have a fun playoff run. We might win a few games in the first round if we get a weaker opponent like maybe the Raptors or banged up Bulls or something. We might advance to the second round. It's highly unlikely, but ultimately the future of this franchise also relies in that Brooklyn Nets pick that we, kind of pilfered from them in 2013. So I'm also focusing on this a lot.
The one other Sixers optimistic side is that we have more comments from Dario Saric and his father that says he's coming over next season.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is exciting.
Yeah.
And it's also surprising to me because if he waits another year, he can get a lot more money. But he just hates Turkey right now and wants to come to
That's
the
awesome. Next
and he said that
Porzingis.
the Sixers losing doesn't bother him.
Is it a microaggression if I call him the next Porzingis?
Everything's a microaggression.
Good point.
But no, so that's exciting. We could have 4 first-round picks coming next year, 4 and Dario, so 5 really.
Wow.
So this is me being optimistic.
I feel like that's what you said every single year.
No,
I'm not trying to say that as opposed to it won't happen. It just seems like every year. Every year, we have 5 picks coming in.
I know, but we got.
They all got deferred.
Yeah, when Miami when Chris Bosh gets a blood clot and Miami falls to the 10th pick, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. Wow, they just got the 10th pick. That's amazing. You were this close to getting Justice Winslow or something of that ilk.
Something that Elfrid Payton, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Not Elfrid Payton, Cameron Payne.
Oh yeah, that's right. There'll be Cameron Paynes though in the next draft. He's pretty. I haven't heard anything about him.
Yeah, he hasn't done much, I don't think.
Yeah.
DJ Augustin's a backup point guard. So,
right. Makes sense. No, it doesn't.
And the craziest thing is the Sixers' most valuable asset that isn't a player or their own pick might not come until 2019.
Is it the Kings pick?
The Kings' unprotected first-round pick the year after Boogie is a free agent.
Oof. So they have a full year to play basketball without DeMarcus Cousins on their team, presumably.
Yeah.
Unless Vivek hypnotizes him into signing again.
Yeah.
Which Vivek might be able to hypnotize people. He's got to be good at something, right?
Something, you assume.
Yeah, he has this much money.
Also, apparently Boogie and Rondo are loving each other.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And Boogie had a quote that if Rondo tries to leave in free agency, I'm gonna kidnap him.
Yeah, and Rondo was talking about how Boogie's the best, probably one of the best players he's ever played, the best center in the league, and you expect him to say that. But it's also just nice to hear after seeing how Rondo interacted with his previous teammates.
Yeah, I can see Boogie and Rondo understanding each other. They're Kentucky, both of them.
Yeah, but similar
eras,
background, similar kind of drive, if you will.
Yeah.
Where they just kind of are lone wolves in the sense that they don't really care about how they look or come off as, and are just trying to play basketball and win games. So I think it'll definitely be a good fit, and I hope to see Rondo staying in the Kings uniform for as long as Boogie is on the team, and then he can leave and go elsewhere.
Yeah. I agree with that. All right, so 5 minutes left. Do you want to play when are the Warriors going to lose a game?
Yes. Let's play when are the Warriors going to lose a game.
Tomorrow night they're in Toronto.
They'll win that.
Sunday night they're in Brooklyn.
They'll win that.
Tuesday night they're in Indiana.
They'll win that.
Wednesday night they don't play.
You want reasoning for this, or is they'll win that enough?
I think they'll win.
Toronto, they're just better. Brooklyn, they're just better. Indiana, Draymond Green, if they play him in the 5 lineup, will roast Jordan Hill, Ian Mahinmi, LaVoy Allen, etc.
Yeah. Friday night, they're in Boston.
They'll win that.
David Lee's revenge game?
I don't know.
Saturday night.
I don't think David Lee's revenge game is enough to propel the Celtics over the Warriors.
Saturday night they're in Milwaukee.
They'll win that. It's so hard to say. Unless it's one of the other top 5 teams in the league, it just doesn't seem like there's a chance.
Yeah. Then they have a bunch of.
How am I supposed to say? Oh, the Bucks will be the team that beat the Warriors.
Yeah.
It could happen, but it probably won't.
Home against Phoenix next Wednesday.
They'll win that. They're gonna go 30-0 probably at this rate, unless
they host Milwaukee. Then 2 days later.
Okay, yeah, we're on our way to 30-0.
I'm trying to find a tough back-to-back, because that's where it would happen. The second night of a back-to-back, they're in someone good. But they don't play anyone good in back-to-backs right now. It's crazy. I also probably should prepare their actual schedule, not just like click on different days.
Yeah, watch their schedule. Load up their schedule.
Yes, I'll do that. Okay, so yeah, at Raptors, at Nets, at Pacers, at Celtics, at Bucks, versus Suns, versus Bucks, versus Jazz. Oh, they play the Cavaliers on Christmas.
Wow.
They could-
That might be a bad Christmas present for the Warriors.
That could, maybe
But they'll win it anyway, too.
Oh, then they have a back-to-back at Mavericks, at Rockets, December 30th and 31st.
I'm actually more... Who would have thought it? But I'm more scared for them for the Mavericks than the Rockets at this point.
Yeah,
This
I can
feels
feel like,
really weird
it's
saying that.
New Year's Eve. Maybe you'll have like a few drinks before the game in Houston.
Yeah,
Maybe they lose that one.
I think, and I know Ty Lawson.
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it had to be said.
They're not losing the rest of the season. I'm giving up on this exercise. They're just not going to
So
lose.
basically, if it comes out to having drinks before New Year's, I don't think the Warriors are at a disadvantage. Is what I was trying to say.
All right, we should end on that note.
All right, that sounds great.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, this is our first edition of our new podcast, Contested Long Twos. Much like the Henry Sims Experience, we have a blog for this stuff. You'll be able to find this episode soon on, now, at contestedlongtwos.wordpress.com. And you have a lot of great articles written by us and other Clark students and former Clark students up there. And, it's a lot of fun basketball stuff. Hope you check it out. That's all I have to say.
Henry Sims Experience still lives.
Yeah, and we'll be back with more stuff after break. I think I can speak for Ethan that we will not be having this podcast December 11th.
Not going to be able to do it.
Me neither. If you hadn't heard from every single Facebook post or side conversation in the cafeteria, finals week is coming up, so we'll be busy with that. But
Bye.
Stanton.